changes could be discussion at the finance committee meetings. That could be part of that document until it is finally presented as a final document to the board.
Well, show me where, or bring to this board, in your interpretation, as you said, it could be a series of interpretations, where you find in school code anywhere that the administration has any responsibility for the creation of the first draft of any budget. Could you do that for us, please?
I'm still not even, I'm not even.
Okay, what will be your next policy, Mr. President?
I will, but let's
Let's
under what
move on.
At this
what lawful authority do you
point,
think
at this
that-
point,
What's
unless
your
I
next
direct
policy,
the
Mr.
budget
Bradley?
to the board, the way we are presenting the budget and working with the.
I understand, I want to change that, that's why we're here.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just telling you.
You used a statement, your statement was, you said, it's my interpretation of school code. So, I feel that the budget is, the responsibility for the budget, the creation and the adoption falls solely on the board. That's my statement. You feel that that's a false statement?
No, half of that I feel is.
Okay, so let's just use creation. So I will make the statement that the board is responsible for the creation of the budget.
The administration presents the information.
The first draft, that's what it's called.
Right, so we present that to the board.
So then who creates the first draft?
Again, it's presented.
It seems to me that the numbers create the first draft.
Yeah.
The
Because if
numbers.
we have to spend X amount for salaries and X amount for benefits that we are
That's
obligated to do under contract, if we have to spend X amount under transportation, which again, we contract to do, if we have to spend X amount for IEP situations and whatever has to happen, and for other classrooms that we have to put in, and for all sorts of programs that we want our kids to take advantage of, those are the numbers that dictate a budget. It doesn't, nobody gets to create the budget. The budget is created by the needs of the district. That's my feeling.
And presented. Just
So when
because
you-
we present something doesn't mean it needs to be adopted, doesn't mean that it will be adopted.
Right, the board has a responsibility to correct the course. So you said the word have to a lot. Under what lawful authority do you have to do these things?
Contract,
Negotiations, okay.
contract liabilities.
Right, so who negotiates the board's contract with the employees? Who do you have assigned to negotiating that?
What does that have to do with it? We're talking
Well,
about
we're
back
contracts
to the
that are in
budget.
place.
And we're back on.
See, now we're going, but, yeah, we just,
Yeah.
do you have a next policy, Mr. President?
I do. So
Okay, well, let's move on to that,
Let's move on to
sir.
that one.
Please, let's move on to it,
No.
sir.
I will. Let me-
No, you won't. Please move on to it, sir.
I will.
No,
I will, I'm moving on, we'll skip the whole negotiation. Let me just explain something to you from a big picture view, very big picture. A plane crashes in Madrid.
come on.
Right?
Come on, come on, no.
That's not part of
We're not
policy.
playing- no,
Give
we're not
us your
playing the
second
game.
policy. Let's
No.
go. Move it.
And it was very interesting how you moved your seat once you wanted to make your speech.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, because otherwise, nobody sees you at the policy meeting. So I just want to make sure, maybe that's cut out of the thing that'll be posted, I'm sure.
Right.
You know, you came and sit and, you know, in between Mr. Cleaver and Mrs. Spinelli, just for the common knowledge that you
I'm
get
trying to
your...
compromise, I'm trying to get
You're not
you
trying
guys
to compromise at all. You don't compromise. You know, Mr. Bradley, I think you should sometimes listen to how you speak to people, and maybe you would appreciate if you would like to be spoken to that way. Maybe that's how you like to be spoken to. Most of the people in our community don't appreciate being spoken to or written to the way you present yourself. There's a lot of things you could probably learn from a presentation perspective, you know? Maybe that would help our whole organization for you to be less critical and more constructive. You bring up past practice of things that have happened 4 or 5 years ago that none of us really had anything to do with, and you consistently blare that out. I don't bring anything up about what you maybe did 4 or 5 years ago. But I think the whole purpose of what we're trying to do is move this district forward. Your interpretation of those and how you add your flair of subordinate administration to emails that go out to who knows wherever they are, because we really don't know the names. So they go out to the Times News, they go out to other places. You know, I don't know how they appreciate that type of tone. But really, it's getting to the point where that tone is really getting old. So that's my statement. I think we should move on to your next policy. And Ms. Wagner will put this together and we'll read it at the next meeting and see where we go with it.
Excellent. Thank you for your input.
I appreciate what you're trying to do,
Good, so let me
but
explain.
maybe, again, let's think about how you're presenting yourself.
Agreed. Let me explain how things are presented so you can better understand it.
Now, see, right there you
I'm
go
gonna tell you,
again.
I'm saying
You're
right-
talking down to me
I'm
just
not.
because you think you can.
I'm
You know what?
not.
We're almost to
I'm
the
not
point
talking-
where the meeting's going to end if you don't move on to your next,
Yes,
so
I
next
agree.
topic.
So we
I'm
have-
gonna adjourn if you don't give us your next policy.
Okay, good for you. So the question is, here's the three that they have that they were provided, but you have to understand how a government works a little bit, and give me the 30-second latitude, okay?
You say the same thing over and over.
I'm not saying this is brand new, you've never heard
They
it.
were
You've
saying
never
this-
heard it, so just bear with me.
I
Be
better
patient.
not have.
Good, we'll see if it's new to you. If it's, I will concede, if this is not new to you, or you've ever heard me say this before, I will help you at the meeting.
Get to it.
Thank you. So, I'm a business person, we make business decisions based upon facts. I also happen to be a pilot, and pilots learn from other pilots' mistakes. There was a crash in Madrid 10 years ago, right? The co-pilot was right at the time. But he died because, and all of them died, right? Because when the co-pilot asked questions, he implied suggestions were very weak. The captain's reply was to ignore him totally. Perhaps the co-pilot did not want to appear rebellious, questioning the judgment of the captain, or he did not want to play the fool because he knew that the pilot had a great deal of experience flying in the area. The co-pilot should have advocated for his own opinions in a stronger way to say,
You're reading the story off the phone.
I am.
Yeah,
To
you're
say-
reading the story, so it's really
I
not
wanna make sure it's accurate.
personal that you have.
in a stronger way
Personal input.
to save those passages. That excerpt was written in an NTSB report governing the safety of aircraft more than 10 years ago. And since then, the aviation industry has greatly improved its ability to protect. The same way I'd like us to protect our students and protect the financial stability of this district. It might sound rebellious to question why someone didn't do anything, or why 5 years ago they did something. But in reality, that questioning brings about change in the benefit of the district. So I will move on to my policy, because I guarantee no one heard that before. If you want to cancel this meeting, that's fine, but I have 3 items. Okay? Would you like to move on, or have you heard it before?
Just, if you could summarize them, please?
Yes,
They're
if
this
they're
short.
small, they're small.
Thank you. All right, the first one was from a constituent that said their version of the balanced budget, which they also saw was important, was that the board is responsible for the stewardship of taxpayers' money, will task the administration with providing an outline for a balanced budget for review by the appropriate subcommittee and approval by the board as a whole no later than 2 months prior to the budget deadline.
So these notes are in support of your first policy.
Now, this is another,
And is
I'm
this,
passing forward.
who is this
Con-
stakeholder?
Consequences, I will. Consequences, failure to provide a balanced budget outline by the required date will result in immediate termination of both the superintendent and business administration. So this person looks for
And who
consequences.
is this person? You gotta tell me who it is or I'm not gonna pay attention. I'm like a newspaper. If I don't have a name, I don't give it credence.
So
Okay.
you understand that that's an
Okay.
ad hominem, you understand the argument that you're trying to make.
Who's the person?
Do you understand that?
Who's the person?
It doesn't matter. What's your next one, please?
Next. No board member who is directly related to or married to an employee of the district shall hold either the presidency of the board or the chairmanship of the
You're
committee
ridiculous. You're
under the
just-
jurisdiction of the board. Consequences, if a board member is found in violation of policy,
This is
immediate
not-
removal from the board is
Okay.
necessary.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
I motion, second motion to
What?
adjourn,
Wait.
meeting's over.
We're done.
In the last 5 years,
We're done.
you had,
Mr. Brown,
You-
we have had
you
this
have-
discussion over and over
Wait,
again.
let's go through the list. It's David Kraus,
It's not in the law.
We don't appoint them, they are elected. If they choose to serve, they're elected.
But not as, they don't have to be the committee chair. You're blocking it. You're blocking this communication right now.
Thank you.
Just because you're right first for the district, you're allowed to
Just
block.
just because she was here before I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
David
because.
Krause had his way first, and Rocky Iron had his way first.
Oh, yeah, it just runs rampant. What do I do? You know?
You shouldn't be a chair of a meeting. It's
Yeah, maybe it has to be residency that you're born in Lehighton to be on
That's
the
only be
board.
on the board. I'm not talking about being,
How about
I'm
that?
talking about being a committee member.
I would like to do that. I would like to say anybody from outlying districts shouldn't be allowed to be on the board unless they've been here for 30 years.
So do you want the third one or not?
No.
All right. Do you want to protect the children, Larry? Because the next one is protecting the children, Larry. Why are you cutting out before we protect the
Because
children,
your
Larry?
first two were ridiculous.
Why don't you protect the children? This is the age of the kids that are injured in our district. Right? Because of lack of supervision, sir. Can you leave the light on, sir? I'd like to be safe getting out. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. All of them. Let me in. Thank you. Good morning. Be aware, the information collected on behalf of the district stakeholders may not have been properly published for your review. Because